The international visitor levy is increasing by 200%. International tourists will now have to pay $100 to enter New Zealand. Kiara Fano is your girl, the sassy engineer. The government announced that will be hiking the international visitor levy by nearly 200%, which means that most visitors will now have to pay an increased levy to enter New Zealand. Full name of this is International Visitor Conservation and Tourism Levy, IVL, and it currently sits at $35, and it's charged to tourists. You have people on working holidays, some students, and some workers coming to New Zealand. I remember when it was implemented in 2019, I was just about to renew my student visa and they said you have to pay an extra $35. I'm like, why am I paying $35? Because international visitor levy. But I'm in the country, how am I a visitor? Because I was on a student visa. So you're technically a visitor even though you're still in the country. Now that money is going to be increasing to $100 starting from October 1st, according to the announcement by the government. Of course, we have different sectors that are kicking against it, which makes sense. At the time when this international visitor levy was implemented, that was 2019, Labour Party was in power, and National, the current party in power, kicked against it. They did not buy that idea, like it's just another tax. So I'm reading RNZ now, and it says National at the time opposed the levy as just another tax, but has since come around to the idea. They've seen that we want it, and I've said it's actually a good idea, and they're even not just agreeing to the idea, increasing it from $35 to $100. Tourism Minister Matt Dorsey on Tuesday saying tourists should contribute more to New Zealand. I kind of understand, because on the one hand, if you're a tourist and you come to New Zealand and you have an accident, ACC covers you, so this could be part of your contribution. Government believes that this decision is going to help the economy. Most of the newspapers here say government says it's going to boost economic growth and support conservation. Government says it's going to alleviate the burden from taxpayers. One of the bases that they're using as their support to increase this international visitor levy is that they did a survey, a public consultation. I didn't see that survey. 1,100 people submitted this survey. Out of this 1,100 people, 93% agreed we're happy to have the international visitor levy raised. This is a funny bit that I don't understand. New Zealand is a population of 5 million people. So out of 5 million people in New Zealand, people submitted, and out of that, 93% agreed to increasing the international visitor levy. And that is the basis that they're using to support their increment. That is not, I don't think that's a good number to use. So on that note, I don't agree. It doesn't make sense, because when I saw that value first in another newspaper that said 93% of the people agreed to the raise, I'm like, 93% of what number? Because that number is very important. Now, based on this number, just 1,100, it means that the consultation was targeted. It wasn't just for anybody. But I feel like that consultation should have started with targeted and then taken out to a wider group. Maybe not announced on the news or something, but just put somewhere where a wider number of people would see and will feel it. But they have their reasons. Yes, in May, around May, there were news around about the fact that the government were in talks on, reviewing the international visitor levy. But who are the people that make up this number? Because that's another thing. It could be the high spenders, people in money. Of course, what is $100 to anybody in money? But we know that the people that come to New Zealand are not just high spenders. You have people who are just regular people trying to make ends meet. You have people who are hustling. They come here to work. They are the nuts and bolts of the workforce of New Zealand. And we know that those set of people comprise most of the workforce in New Zealand and who are keeping New Zealand at the level that it is today, if we're being honest. So you have those working holidays people that come and help with the horticulture area, with the, working in seasonal work, and just, of course, making money for themselves, but also keeping the economy going. Many industries have kicked against this. New Zealand Airports Association calls this simply bad policy. And I can understand why. First of all, New Zealand is far away from everywhere. So traveling to New Zealand, it's already a lot of money. New Zealand is not a big economy compared to nearby countries like Australia. Of course, it's bigger than some other countries. New Zealand is a tourist destination, let's be honest. In as much as New Zealand is a tourist destination, it's already an expensive country to live in. New Zealand Airports Association said the increase cemented New Zealand as one of the most expensive countries in the world for holiday today. And it's actually true. Living in New Zealand is already really expensive. Accommodation is not cheap. We pay rent per week, and if you see $150 per week, wow, you're good. So living in New Zealand is already expensive. Food is expensive. We have more cows than human beings. We have more sheep than human beings. Yet lamb is very expensive. It's cheaper to buy lamb in the UK than even to buy here. Watermelon is crazy. We have all these things, and most of them are being exported out of the country. People within the country cannot afford to buy some of the things that we are exporting out of the country, so that you can live in New Zealand and it's cheaper to buy lamb outside the country than in New Zealand, where lamb is more than human beings. So you see how expensive the country is. So most people are not happy with this thing. More said it would end up becoming a money go round, with Levy suppressing the demand and forcing the government to spend more through tourism marketing, which is true, because when you do this and end up pursuing tourists, you now have to spend more money in advertising to bring in tourists. Now, the board of airline representative echoed this, saying it was extremely concerned about the increase. They don't see any justification in this increase. Lifting the levy from $35 to $100 per person demonstrates the Minister of Tourism does not appreciate the impact of softening demand for destination New Zealand. Already, when we had that pandemic issue, the rest of the world opened up. New Zealand took forever to open up, and that caused most people to migrate out of New Zealand. That caused so many things. New Zealand actually is still suffering from those decisions. I can understand the reasoning behind it, because we're trying to control things, but the world had moved on. 1 year later, we were still not freely open, and so that affected New Zealand. People started looking for other options, other destination, which, if I was in their shoes, I would look for other destination where I want to travel to. Now we're still battling that part, and you're bringing in these increments. Honestly, I don't see any justification for that. Even to visit, when you come here, you will spend a lot, and that is one of the bases that they are using to support the increment, because they're saying that this increase is barely 3% of the amount of money that you spend when you come to New Zealand to visit New Zealand. Now, that is not a strong basis or a good enough reason to increase from $35, not even to $50, to $100, nearly 200%. That's a jump, and for a short period of time. Like, we are already in September, and this is going to be taking effect start of October. Another reason that they're stating is that this new IVL remains competitive with countries like Australia and the UK, and we are confident that New Zealand will continue to be seen as an attractive visitor destination by many around the world. I did a bit of reading, and Australia charges departure tax of $70, which is actually added to the flight. But this one will not be added to the flight. This one is usually added to your visa application. If I want to play a bit of devil's advocate, on the government side, I understand why they want to increase their levy. They want to take off some of the burden away from taxpayers. Some tourists come here and put so much load on some destinations. When you are a tourist, as a visitor in New Zealand, if you have any accident, ACC covers you. Those other things, those basic things that are in place. I kind of understand that. But there are other aspects of it. What kind of visitors are you looking for? If you're looking for just high-paying visitors, then that's fine, because those ones, $100 is nothing to them. But if you want all type of visitors, which, if we are being honest, New Zealand is really, most of the workforce are not comprised of majority of high spending visitors. It's mostly from those middle class down that come to do all those walks around, working holiday, whatever. Those are the people that make up most of the grunt, the bolts and nuts of the workforce of New Zealand. So now, if you're increasing the levy to $100, it's going to reduce those kind of people that come here, which is probably the government's target. They're trying to make New Zealand a niche for high luxury spending. But how many high luxury spenders would want to come here all the time? Let's be honest. Looking at the news, some parties are in support of it. For instance, the Green Party is actually in support of the increase as long as the government can demonstrate the revenue is going towards conservation and biodiversity effort and not simply making up for government underfunding. About 7% of the Department of Conservation annual funding comes from the International Visitor Levy. So Department of Conservation are the one that take care of the, natural, the fauna and the flora of New Zealand. Those of you who go for hiking, your huts are taken care of by the Department of Conservation. Your hiking trails are also taken care of the Department of Conservation. And these things don't come free, neither do they come cheap. So this is where they say the money is going into, really to cut down on the tourism New Zealand's budget. So you, as a tourist, is contributing your bit to help keep the tourism industry afloat, so that you can still come and see nice things in New Zealand. There's someone else that actually, Crocs News, they've actually looked at the risk and the rewards of raising the foreign tourist tax in New Zealand and value versus values. Tourism, we know, is a part of New Zealand's economy. Tourism is a major component of New Zealand's GDP. Hospitality, food, everything. This news guy said one strategy that emerged was to attract high-value tourists rather than revert to the pre-pandemic model of mass tourism. So if that is their strategy, then this can actually help that, because when you increase price of things, certain people will not be able to afford that. So you automatically eliminate them from the bulk. And then you're now targeting those, high value tourists. Of course, it's not unique to just New Zealand, or many other countries do this. So it could work, but New Zealand's distinctive overseas marketing approach has long played of being welcoming for all. And we have the Māori Manakitanga, which means hospitality and generosity. We come out to the world like, no matter your class, whether you're rich or poor, you are welcome to New Zealand. But increasing this fare is saying something different. We are shifting the paradox and all that. Another angle is about resetting tourism strategies. It's known now that tourism is now approaching pre-COVID numbers. So we have international visitors spending lots of money these days. Now, what type of international visitors do we really want right now, like urgently? Is determining the kind of policies and decisions they are trying to make. But we need to find a balance. If you stack $100 against your overseas holiday, like the overall spending on your overseas holiday, like that minister says, and they're right, it doesn't make up to 3% of your cost, but it's still a barrier, because some people will be like, there's nothing in this and say, why am I paying $100 for visa? Now, $100 may not seem a lot when you stack it up with your overall holiday cost, but it's still another price barrier. Because let's be honest, the issue here is international visitor levy is added to the visa application cost. And sometimes your visa application gets denied. And once it's denied, your money is not refunded. Now you have to go and apply for another visitor visa. You still pay for the visa plus the international visitor levy. And if you are from certain countries, chances of you getting the visa is slimmer because you're already a suspect just by being from that country. Your chances of your visitor visa or whatever visa that you're applying that gets charged this international visitor levy, the chances of getting that is slimmer compared to people from other countries. So that would deter you. Even if you have the money, I go apply for visa the first time, reject, apply for second time, they reject. Why am I doing in this New Zealand? It's just something to watch and see how it plays out, honestly. But there are many pros to it and there are many cons to it. And in my opinion, I don't think this $100 is necessary. It could have been something that they would just, slowly implement it, not just suddenly. But anyway, we'll just see how it plays out. But I feel strongly that it's going to deter some people from coming to New Zealand. Of course, not the high spenders. None of my guys are ballers, because what is $100? What is money? Definitely some people, especially people who have been applying for visitor visa already, or working holiday visa, and have been rejected for whatever reason, or student visa as well, that's a lot of money already just to start the process. It looks more like New Zealand is now targeting mostly luxury travel, which is good because luxury travel brings money, a lot of money at once. But when you consider the whole Manakitanga thing around New Zealand, you also know that backpackers as well, who are not luxury travelers, also would love to experience the country and just learn about it. And so increasing the visitor levy would affect some of these backpackers, but you need a balance. You actually need a balance. Yes, you need the luxury guys, but you also need, the backpackers, the people who are just here for a short time on a budget travelers. It wasn't too long ago that they announced that immigration visa and levies would also be increasing starting in October 1st. All of this is to cut down on Tourist New Zealand's budget. One of the correspondents to RNZ News says, "We are particularly concerned about the cumulative effect of these fees, which we believe will have a material impact on visitors' numbers, a vital workforce, and economic contributions they bring." Most of these backpackers, most of these working holiday visas are the ones that really contribute to the workforce, especially in the hospitality area. So when you increase the visa fees and you're also increasing the international visitor levy at the same time, yes, you will still have your luxury travel unaffected, but the people that service these luxury travelers would definitely be affected. And so you would have luxury travelers with not enough people to service them. We need that balance, and this is why I'm not in support of increasing the levy from $35 to $100. But as you know, my opinion does not matter, because if it did matter, I think we would have all heard of the survey, and we would have all had the opportunity to fill that survey and participate in it. But obviously, so that's it about the latest news, which is that the government is hiking the international levy by nearly 200%. I just really love the headlines. RNZ says tourists will have to pay $100 to enter New Zealand. New Zealand Herald says tourist levy to enter New Zealand to be hiked by nearly 200%. One News goes, international visitor levy increasing to $100. This is Crocs News. It says, "Welcome to New Zealand. Now pay up. The risk and rewards of raising the foreign tax." What is this one? Star News. What's Star News? International tourists will now have to pay $100 to enter New Zealand. Other than that, the other news from Immigration New Zealand is that the government is making short-term changes to avoid shortages in select sectors, while long-term employer work visa changes are being decided. So they're still going to be making more changes to accredited employer work visa. From 8 September 2024, an exemption to the accredited employer work visa minimum skill requirements will be available to some roles in the following sector: the meat and seafood processing. This will be for all new visa applicants. Tourism and hospitality. This will be for existing visa holders with a role that is exempt from paying the February 2023 median wage if visa is expiring on or before March 31st. They are applying for a further 1-year duration, and the application is for the same occupation. Based on those conditions, if you qualify, then you will have the minimum skill requirement exempted. K workforce. This is for existing visa holders with a role included in the K workforce agreement. If their visa was granted between 2022 and 2023, certain months are there, they were paid at least $26.16 per hour. They are applying for a further 1-year duration AE, and the application is for the same occupation. So you can read all that online about the news, the sector agreement, the accredited employer work visa. I've talked about that on my channel, so check out the videos to learn more. And these changes only exempt accredited employer work visa applicants from the minimum skill requirements introduced in April 2024. So they will still need to meet any requirement listed by the employer in the job check application. The exemption is just for the requirements that were introduced in April 2024. These changes are part of the wider review of the AEWV to ensure that it's fit for purpose, and targeted consultation on potential longer-term options to further improve the AEWV will continue throughout the year. So that's it, guys. That is the news fresh off press. Let me know your thoughts about the increase to the international visitor levy.